Welcome to another episode of dumb crap people say on GunTube. Today, for the sake of science, I'm going to beat on one of my favorite Remingtons again with a wooden mallet. I'm going to put that back in there like so, close that up. This right here is Lee's 450 conical for cap and ball revolvers. I personally get off of my calipers 449, but for the sake of argument, we're going to use this bullet. Now, as you can tell, it fits at the end of that just like so. Hopefully you can see it. My gun's been dusty. I've been doing a lot of scouting, but for the sake of argument, we're going to get a slugging, a bore diameter of this particular barrel. May take me a bit to get to it. As you can see, I've got a good start. A little work. And there we go. I'm going to try to do this up here so you can see me catch the bullet. So we're at the point of hickory. Oh, that went all the way to the ground. Okay, we ended up for some reason managing to get all the way to the tripod with that bullet. And as you can see, we got an engraving of the rifling, and I'm going to take a measurement. Wow, that's even smaller than I suspected. Sorry about my eyes. I have a heck of a time seeing exactly what I'm doing. But in this case, I have a measurement of, excuse me, I re-spoke. Need to re-say that. 0.445. And I'm going to take that measurement again just to be on the safe side. In this second shot, I got 0.445. So we're between 0.4445 and 0.445. With me? Now, why does that matter? And this is where I get into the dumb things people say. A while ago, what I'd like to consider as a buddy of mine did a video on 3 guns that he gets the most complaints about modifying. And some of that modification had to do with a gun that he resurrected from scrap and made it work, and then turned it into something he had a dream to build. Enough said as far as the specifics, but a gun that mediocre value that's broken is 0 value, resurrected and made into a vision he wanted. The second complaint had to do with military surplus guns being modified. Well, they've been modified since the beginning of time. Since the beginning of military surplus, to be honest. Dumb. I'll get into that more specifically later. Recently, I did a short in which I asked people to tell me about this frame, because this is the 3rd gun most complained about. And although I had very few respondents, and 2 of them actually correctly identified the finished product, they didn't give me the details I was looking for the frame. This, for all practical purposes, is a Ruger Blackhawk with a .45 caliber barrel on it. Frame's Blackhawk, barrel's Blackhawk. Except it took a hard left turn at the factory. This happens to be a 1975, the very first year they did stainless, Ruger Old Army. They took a 45 Colt Blackhawk frame, took a hard left turn, put an extra hole here for a plunger, got rid of the gate, and for all practical purposes, the other major change is this no longer has a transfer bar. It snaps caps. Now, why does that matter? Well, I just showed you what the bore size of that Remington is. And just for a clue, 450 Colt Remington, 456 bullet for the Ruger Old Army. And yes, I know that a channel, much larger channel than I, dubbed this the best percussion revolver ever made. Well, yes and no. Historically correct, but we got the 450 bullet right here. If I go to put that in that chamber, that fits into that chamber, right? If I do that with the one up here, that should have been your first clue. The chambers, or the barrels on, and chambers, both actually, on the Remingtons and Colts are far smaller. Barrels and chambers are far smaller than the barrels on the Ruger Old Army. I'm going to pull out my stick here. Now, the complaint on that one was he installed, which is kind of a loose term, installed, I believe it was a Kursk 45 Colt conversion cylinder into his Ruger Old Army. Well, right now I'm going to tell you that these guys, including Colts, are getting 45 auto and 45 Colt conversion cylinders all the time. And the second thing you hear about that's kind of dumb on the internet is they're talking about cracked forcing cones, and blaming themselves for the fact that they might have tried to overpower some of their hand loads. Well, if you look at their Colt 45 Colt conversions, they'll tell you low pressure, cowboy action, lead bullets only, ammo only. And then they'll say the statement that the rate of rifling twist could cause problems with jacketed bullets. Well, if you're talking this much size change from a 45 Colt, the problem isn't the rate of twist. The problem is it's going to tear it up because of the difference in bore diameter, my opinion. Now, when it comes to that 45 Colt, the reason we get away with this, because any other application that you might come up with, whether it be putting a 284 diameter bullet in a 277 case, something stops that from happening, or chamber, something stops that from happening, and that is the tolerances within the chamber does not allow an oversized bullet to fit up the throat. It stops it. You try to put a 41 caliber bullet in a 40 Smith & Wesson, and what stops it there? The same thing. Well, in this case, the chambers are already your chamber, forcing this in, already putting that in line and turning this barrel into a swage. Get my point? You go hard cast, you go this, any of that, you're going to put excessive pressure at the forcing cone. Which means the only truly appropriate 45 Colt conversion cylinder should ever be put on and considered completely 45 Colt is right here. Does that mean that this particular revolver is capable of handling Ruger only loads? I'm not going to tell you that. But what I am going to tell you is this opens up your field more than what this one does. Meaning jacketed bullets, full metal jacket, even monolithic bullets are still capable of going through here within reasonable pressures and velocities. I'll never tell anybody to overload their gun. That's something you have to take responsibility. But when it comes to 45 Colt, but this is a true 45 Colt through and through, except it took a hard left turn at the factory. But all in all, it is still 45 Colt. Right here, 4.56 bullet. We can do the same procedure right here and prove it if you think that's going to be the deal. But in this case, I can, well, no, I can't because I've got to drive it out here. I have two modifications coming, and I'll pull them out in a minute. Because somebody is saying I can't modify it, it seems like it's a good time to modify it. And I will eventually buy me maybe even both, the Howells conversion and the Curse conversion for this guy. But one of the things I'm going to try in this is, and I have no, I mean, I bought these. I've talked to the guy because I didn't completely understand. But these are something I heard about many years ago. It's called MagSpark for muzzleloaders, and this one is designed for the Ruger Old Army to shoot 209 shotgun primers from it. I don't know if you can see them in there. I had lots of questions about them because I never seen a firing pin to them. And according to the guy, they don't need a firing pin because this hammer strikes the 209 primer as the same as it would like a rim fire, and it's enough to set that off. As far as specifics on using them, I recommend if you try this, go there. But the next modification I'm going to do is a high-vis sight on the front of this. Anything that fits on a Ruger Blackhawk fits on the Old Army. Now, let's go back to old guns that don't run. Somebody's personal vision is their business. Leave that alone. When it comes to the Army surplus rifles, it's because of people in our past who bought those cheap, including some of those that came home with some military surplus. It has been around forever. Every man known to build guns, build cartridges, develop cartridges, started life with military surplus stuff because it was available, easily accessible, and because of that, ultimately inexpensive. They've developed cartridges with names like P.O. Ackley and Gibbs and Newton, and for that matter, Roy Weatherby, and including manufacturers at the end of certain campaigns or wars had surpluses in their lots that they ended up converting for the commercial market. And for that, and the fact that now, because of people modifying stuff, has raised the value of fully military stuff, you're welcome. Stop whining over spilled milk. It is what it is, and people needed to be able to have an affordable way to go at the time, and that was the best answer. So, if you came here wearing your feelings on your sleeves looking to get butt hurt, you may have come to the right place.